Okay, so battery died, but I've got a what's it called? A power adapter for my camera, so I can just plug it into the mains now, which is what I should have done in the first place. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's plug in next the RAM. So this is called a RAM. I don't know why it's trendy now. They call them RAM kits. So where it used to be a stick of RAM or 2 sticks of RAM, now it's called a kit of RAM. I don't know why. It's modern and trendy. So there you go. This is how they come. They're in plastic. I mean, isn't that funny? They're not in anti-static bags. So anyway, they're in plastic, and they've got this strip of plastic at the top, which is where the LEDs are. And those LEDs are, you know, they make the RAM go faster. Not really. As a joke, they just make your computer look pretty. Okay, so to put the RAM in, it's really simple. There's a notch in the middle, and the notch is offset from the center. So whichever direction that notch is, that's the direction that it needs to go in. And there are 2 colors, and the 2 colors are the pairs of RAM that go together. So you've got channel A and channel B, and by putting 2 RAM sticks in the same channel, you can then double up the throughput of the RAM, so it's twice as fast. If you was to put a stick in A and a stick in B of one of the channels, then what would happen is you'd only get half the speed out of them because it's split across 2 different buses. That's all it is. It doesn't matter unless you want to get the full potential out of your RAM. So best practice is do it the correct way. Now, which is channel A, which is channel B, I don't know. Normally channel A is the one closest to the CPU, so that's the one we're going to put it in. And as I say, it has notches. So to put that in, you have to open up these clips. Hang on a sec. You have to... Why won't it clip open? Are these modern clips? Okay. Modern motherboards, one side doesn't open. So there you go. Something new I wasn't aware of. I've not built a computer for 8 years. So it turns out that the only one side... So I guess you must have to put that side down first and then slot the other side in. I was guessing, maybe I'm guessing wrong. Maybe you put them both... Okay, so put both sides down at the same time. Right hand side is now clipped in. Left hand side, as I push it down, the clip moves, but then it actually pulled up the other side a little bit. So it just gives both sides a push just to make sure they're down. And then the same with the other stick. All you got to do is make sure that the clip is pushed back. Make sure that you put both sides in at the same time is the way you should do it. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see if we can line it up. Make sure it's lined up. So there we go. So as you push it down, right side is clicked, left side clicked, and just give it a little wiggle just to make sure it's definitely in there. So those 2 RAM sticks are in there now, and all that lovely RGB goodness is going to bleed through. Excellent. So that's the RAM. Next, CPU. And the CPU that I've got temporarily is the Ryzen 5 3600XT. So we're going to put this in until my other CPU turns up, which is the Ryzen 9, which will hopefully be better for VR. So this is going to be a VR rig. How do you open these boxes? Give me a sec. Oh, there's some scissors here. There we go. Let's get some scissors here. So as I said, with this particular CPU box, it comes with a heatsink. Now this is a trend which I've been told is going away, and they're getting rid of the heat sinks. So you've got an instruction book which just has nothing. You have your heat sink in a box, so that's the heat sink. It's quite heavy actually. You then have your CPU, and it has this looks like a Ryzen 5 sticker, which you can then stick on the front of your stick on the front of your computer, you know, so everyone knows it's a Ryzen. So how do you put a CPU in? Really simple. Be very gentle is the first thing. There are tiny little pins on the back, tiny little pins, and if you bend them, they're very difficult to bend back. Now, I don't know if the Intels are still doing this, but at one point the Intels were putting pins on the motherboard, not on the CPU, and then I dropped the CPU, it hit the motherboard and bent the pins on the motherboard, and that was the end of that motherboard. So the way that you put these in is there's a gold little triangle in the corner of the CPU. There's a gold triangle in the corner of the CPU, and on the motherboard there is a corresponding gold triangle. Now where is it? Where is it? Is that it there? Is that a triangle there? That looks like a triangle there. So you can also tell because I think it is missing one pin on that side, so which means it can only go in that way as well. So gold triangle, gold triangle. Lift up the little catch, and that releases all of the quick release holders. You drop the CPU in, so that's gone in there. It's not moving. It's pretty solid. Okay. And then you just clip the CPU down and clip it over. You see that? See how the way it clipped over when I put that in? And that's it. That's the CPU in. Now, important, do not turn the computer on without a heatsink. If you haven't got the heatsink, the computer, the CPU will melt. I mean, modern CPUs, they do have, modern CPUs do have, what are they called? Thermal regulators, so they've got a thermometer that can measure the temperature, and then it will then adjust itself to so it doesn't overheat. Okay, so this is the cooler. That's the cooler, this AMD cooler, and it has thermal paste already applied, so we don't need to put any thermal paste on. But when I do the CPU upgrade, I will be putting thermal paste on, so I'll show you what the difference is when that goes on there. There are 4 screws, one for each corner of the heatsink, but at the moment the motherboard has these sort of clip-on style heatsink adapters. So what we need to do is just unscrew those because they will be in the way. So depending on your heatsink, you may not need to do this. You may have a heatsink that needs these clip things, these plastic clips, or you may have a heatsink that doesn't, like this one. So we'll just unscrew that and get them off. See if we can. You can still see the CPU a bit, can't you? Let's get a zoomy in a bit. Zoomy in a bit. So there is the CPU. So you've got a clear picture of it there. And let's unscrew there. And that's the other clip. So as I say, your motherboard may not need these, or it may do. Now the problem is I've just unscrewed these, and the back plate has just fell off and gone underneath. So we're probably going to need that back plate. So let's have a look at it. So I'm just going to lift up the computer and grab it. Oh yeah, so the back plate is just a big piece of metal with plastic across it, and that's what the CPU heatsink will screw into. So to do this, I'm going to rest the computer on my foot, hold the back plate in place so it's back through the holes, because we want it through the holes. Then I'm going to get the heatsink, and I'm going to put the heatsink on top of the back plate like that. So on it goes with the 4 screws lined up. Then I'm going to grab the screwdriver, and I'm just going to screw these screws down, just gently one at a time, just to get it started. Now they're sprung loaded, these screws, so as I'm screwing you can hear that noise. That's the that's the springs which are pushing against the screw as I screw it. So it's a disconcerting sound. And try not to shear off the screws, and try not to push too hard, and whatever you do, don't slip and go through your motherboard. Okay, so that's screwing a lot easier now. So all 4 seem to be in. So I'm just gonna... It's a horrible sound, isn't it? That's the springs. There we go. So 1, 2. And you just do each one just a little bit at a time, and then when they're nearly home you just finish them off. Until it stops. Except for this final one, which is having trouble getting in. Of course it is. There we go, just needed a bit more push on it because it's sprung loaded, you see. And there we go. So that is the heatsink. Oh, I can bring that back down again now. So that's now the heatsink connected. Well, it's on the motherboard and it's secure, but we need to plug it in. Now we plugged in the fan earlier for the case, and then this is the right next to it is the connector for the CPU fan, and you just need to line up the 4 pins and the plastic thing on the back, and then that goes. So now we've got a CPU cooler spinning, we've got the RAM, we've got the hard drive, we've got the power. I mean, in theory that should be a bootable system, that should be ready to go. But what I'm going to do is one last part for this, and that is to put in the graphics card. So the graphics card, as I said, it's a 2080 Super, and I've got it up here. Let me just grab that. So it's a 2080 Super, super duper. There we go. And that's going to go into the PCIe Gen 4 slot there. And to get it to fit in, when it goes in, we need to remove 2 of these face plates at the back. Now they are thumb screwed in, but even though they're thumb screwed in, they're in very tight. So I'm just going to loosen them up with a screwdriver. There we go. And then you can then unthumb them out. So there we go. So there's one, and then here's the second one. Oh, keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. Come on, you can do it. Like I say, this is a real-time installation, so expect to spend this long doing it yourself. So there's the 2 face plates out. Keep hold of the thumb screws, going to need them in a minute. So grab the graphics card and we'll put that in. So we'll just slot that into place, and there is a catch at the back of the PCI. You just got to make sure that's down when you put this in, and then it will flip back up again when you push the card into place. So as I push the card down and lock it in, that's now flipped back up and it's now secured the card. I can't get that out now without pressing it down. So we took those thumb screws out, so now we need to pick them up and put them back in to hold the card in place. So we just screw them literally back in where they came from, just to hold the card in place. And they are thumb screws, so you can use a screwdriver to speed it up, but it's a little bit awkward with this case because there's a big piece of plastic in the way. So that's one, and then we just do the other. So there's the other, and the reason you use the thumb screw to start with really is just to make sure the screw's lined up, because you don't want to put it in at an angle and then have it shear anything off. So we'll just make sure that's straight as we screw it, and then finish it off with the screwdriver. So, and there we go. And that should go in easy. And if it doesn't, it might be that you've got it at an angle. Okay, now like I said before, these graphics cards need a lot of power. And the way that we power these things is with these extra power bits from the power supply. So I'm going to just pop in one, and they should line up with the catches. So there's a little catch there. So 1, 2, 3 in, and then a catch. So we can have 1, 2, 3 in, and then a catch, and that clips in. And then there's a spare one hanging off the side of it, which then clips in the end, and that's got a little notch to line up with the one that's already plugged in there. So they should all line up together. So that's that one in, and then we can just tuck the extra cable underneath and maybe use a cable tie on that later. And then the same with this one, but this one only has the 6 for this one. So all we've got to do is plug in the 6, and then the extra 2 will just be left hanging. So plug that in, and that sort of just clips in. So just make sure that that is lined up. Now what I will do is just unplug this one, because I think you may have to put the other one in first for it to clip in, or do you have to push them together? Because there's a reason there's a clip there. I don't know if it's because you put it in before or after. It doesn't seem to have anything lined up as such. Nothing. Yeah, strange. Strange how it doesn't. Yeah, same with all of them. They got these bits of clip that stick out the side. Actually, yes, they do. They go underneath. Okay, so this is designed so when you need to use the 8 pins, the extra 2 actually clip in underneath the 6 before you plug it in, so they're all at the same height. So that was good that I checked. So in that goes, or you could just put the 2 in first and then put the 6 in, because it will do the same job. If you can. It's a little bit awkward. Here we go. So so I'm just going to put these together as one, hold it together, slide that in, and try to make it look as awkward as possible, so you all know how awkward this is. So we can get it to slide in. Come on. There we go. Okay, so get the 2 down below the 6, and then that way when this clips in, it holds it in place. Perfect. And then we just want to tidy these up. So how are we going to tidy them up? Well, this can then tuck under there, this can tuck under there, this can tuck under there. These two can go together like that. So it's all, like I said before, it's all about aesthetics and cable management. And then I've got a cable tie which I can then just wrap around this lot, just to hold it all in place so it all looks pretty. There we go. So we'll just get that cable tie ready and started. There we go, so that's started. Line up all the cables so they're all going to be compressed together neatly like that. So that's a good looking compression, and then just pull that, and that just holds them in place. And then just get some scissors, just cut that, just so it's neat. Okay, so now we've got some other cables here that could do a bit of tidying. So we can grab them together like that, just tuck them around, drag that over, get that around as well. Just straighten them out, just so they look a bit tidier, like that. Now what you could do is could actually feed all these through. So that's what I'm going to do. So lift this up, move the camera over so you can see, and then I'm going to feed all those cables through. Let's move this over here, move this around to here, gosh. Feed them through so all of the loose cables come through, and then I'll cable tie them, if you can hear me, I'll cable tie them once I've poked them all through. So that way they're all tight on this side and then cable tied the other side. Just makes them look a bit prettier. So you don't have to do this, it just looks a bit neater, doesn't it? Looks like you know what you're doing. Or you could tuck them down underneath here. There's a big hole down the bottom here that you can tuck them into. But you don't even need to cable tie them really, just need to just tuck them in place so they are so they're all nice and neat. I think that was tucked behind there before. So nice and flat is what they need to be. Okay, so the side plate then can go on. So that just goes back into place like that. And there we go, side plate is on. And then the other side plate, and that's it. We've got ourselves a computer. So at the back, we'll flip it around, so you can see the back. And you can see that that's the VGA card that we put in. That's the back plate with all of the things poking through. And down there is the power supply. Job done. Let's get it up on the side, plug it in, see if it works. Okay, so I've plugged it in. There it is up on the shelf, and there are some LEDs on the motherboard which are all cycling through different colours. So that must mean there's life. So on the top of this this tower, there is a start-stop button, which is basically a power button. So I'm just going to lean over and press that and see what happens. Oh, we've got lights. Lights everywhere. So the... okay. Now you see those flashing lights on the motherboard? That's where it does a self-test to see if something's wrong. And it's going through, everything's green, and something's just come up on the screen. So there we go. The hard drive I've put in is obviously from an old Linux server of mine. So that's now going to actually try booting into Linux, which, because all of the drivers are actually built into the kernel, you'll probably find that, what does that say? Something unknown hardware. Well, I guess it's having trouble with the AMD. Maybe it's still booting, I don't know. So what I'm going to do now is format it, stick Windows on, and we've got ourselves a PC. That's it. There's your PC. That's all it took. So you've got lights at the front for the fans at the front. You've got lights for the RAM. There's actually lights on the graphics card, but the graphics card, I think it only once it boots the lights come on. Yeah, because it's all about the lights. Not really, but there you go. So now I'm going to install Steam and do a bit of VR gaming and see how cool this is with a graphics card connected directly through the PCI bus, which is what this was all about. Alright, any questions? Let me know, and we'll see what else we can do with... Well, I'm going to be doing upgrade videos, so stick around and you'll see some upgrades. Alright then, bye!